Guten Tag, mes amis. Wie geht's? C'est moi, Dieter. Ich bin Dieter. Morning coffee, or shall we say, morning ice water with long-haired, beard getting longer Dieter. Hope you're doing well. So, Dieter and Pick are going to discuss with you one of the biggest mistakes most guitarists make, and the most important tool, one of the most important tools you get when you buy a guitar. And this tool deserves a place of honor in your toolbox, or you should keep it with your guitar at all times, because so many people make this silly mistake, and it is really a silly mistake. So, what you may ask, you may well wonder, what is the most important tool you can have? Aside from a John Pierce armrest, of course. These, mes amis, the venerable Allen key. And you know Dieter likes to do things in threes, so that's why it's got three. Now when you get a guitar, not a classical guitar because they usually don't have a truss rod, and a truss rod is a very important element of your guitar when it comes to setup. So you usually get an Allen key that's specific for your guitar, so you should keep that always with that guitar or in your toolkit. And if you have multiple guitars like me, label them, or you know how they look. Now, I didn't have this because it's put away, but my Larrivee has a very unique, it's a big dipped U thing, almost looks like a miniature saw Allen key to fit in, right? This is for my Breedlove, and you can see it's quite long. This is for my Godin A6 Ultra. You can see it's short here. And this is just an Allen key from a set. What I like about this is it has a long lever. Now if you compare these two, see, and I'll get to why this. So they'll give you a key that fits your guitar. So there's some of them are standard. This one's a little thicker than this one. But I don't know if it's between 4 and 5, but they're usually 4 and 5 millimeters or whatever. Don't get into, but you'll get one with the guitar. But you should have a kit just in case you misplace one. So this guitar, I restrung it the other day, and it had medium gauge strings on it. And when I put lighter gauge silk and steel strings on it, because I wanted to try different strings, the action here was quite high. I'm exaggerating, but like it was like up here. Now what some people will do is they'll just start willy-nilly, they'll take all the strings off, and then they'll start shaving shaving the saddle down and shaving the nut down. That's the worst thing you can do. No, keep your okay, if your guitar is set up properly for your strings and the action, right? Sometimes because of humidity and stuff, if your guitar has been properly set up, chances are the bridge hasn't grown magically in height, nor has the nut. There's our captive audience. So what is usually happening is because of the expansion or contraction of the wood due to the humidity, this is why you should always keep your guitar at the same humidity, is probably the relief on the neck has changed. And so what you do is you have a truss rod in here. Now this one is in here. You can't see it, but okay. I couldn't find the Allen key because I put it in my toolkit that came with this guitar. So initially this one was kicking around, but this is for an electric. And the neck here wasn't long enough, so it didn't fit in. So I couldn't get it in there. So I tried to do it this way, but when I did it this way, it fit, but there wasn't enough leverage here to get a good torque on it. So I couldn't turn the truss rod. So I looked in my toolkit and I pulled this one out and I go, okay, it's a little, you can see here, it's a little longer, right? And it's longer this way. So this had more leverage. And this worked perfectly. So I got it in there. I gave it 3 cranks, boom, boom, boom. And the action is perfect. So it literally only took 2 minutes. I didn't have to take the saddle off and sand it down. I didn't have to take the nut off and sand it down. It's fine. So usually that is the problem, especially when you change string gauges. So this has silk and steel strings on it, right? But so what I'm getting at is if your action was good with the set of strings you're doing, and then you take the strings off, and let's say you want to experiment, so you want to try different gauge strings. Well, different gauge string has different tension, so it will probably affect the neck. And what you have to do is adjust the truss rod. Now, don't make the mistake. Now, what I did with this, because the strings hadn't been changed in a while, so I took the strings off and I polished it, and I lemon oiled. The fingerboard and the bridge. You can see it's all nice and shiny now, and the armrest, and polished it, and it's like new now, except for the war wounds that you always get. Got a nice little scar here yesterday because I was at this wake and the drummer was so goddamn loud, and the bass player, and I was plugged in and I couldn't hear myself, so I probably overstrummed and out of frustration probably went ah. But that's what happens when you're playing with people that you haven't rehearsed with, and it was a celebration, so people were a lot of people were stoned and drunk. I wasn't, but a lot of them were, and that just happens at these things. Like Deb was letting off some steam, and things got a little carried away with, you always get when you have, there were probably 60 or 80 musicians there, and not everybody played, but you always get it. There's somebody, wants to kind of steal the show, and when they get like that, I just unplug my guitar. I wasn't even gonna take a guitar, except that I was asked by the lady who was throwing the thing, so that's why I did. And I played about 4 songs, and it was fun, but then after that, I was done. But when you have people at these things with big egos that try and put a spotlight on them, and it's not about them, it's about celebrating a friend's life who passed away and supporting his immediate surviving family, in this case, his partner, who's a great lady. Just park your ego at the door. But, hey, I don't mean to preach about that. I'm talking about relief. Maybe that's why I segued into that. So, but this is the most important thing. Then I restrung it. Don't adjust your truss rod when the strings are off. Now, sometimes it may be easier because some truss rods are here and they have a cover on that. You have to take that cover off, and if that cover is interfering with the strings, so be it. You'll have to, but you have to adjust the truss rod at tension, because if you adjust the truss rod when the strings are off, you're just guessing. And so, like if I'm going from lighter to heavier gauge strings, the heavier gauge strings will pull more. So I might have to slacken that truss rod instead of tightening it, right? So you're just guessing if you don't have the strings on. So string it up with the strings you're putting on, and then tune it to the pitch you use, like 434, Dieter tuning in my case, which is somewhere around 432, right? 435 D sharp, or 440, whatever. But then you take the truss rod, and then you give it a turn, and then check the action. And you'll know it's working because you tune the guitar, right? And then when you turn the Allen key, it will go out of tune. That means that you've put some torque on the truss rod or lessened the torque on the truss rod, and the neck will adjust accordingly. So hopefully that helps. This is a great tool. Use it properly, and use the one that came with your guitar, because they're usually custom designed for that guitar. And if not, get a good Allen key set that has long shafts on it. Okay? You can't go wrong with a long shaft. Okay, and I'll do another video talking more about strings. But hopefully that helps. Yeah, a lot of people waste a lot of time with their guitars trying to get the action right, when a lot of times all you really have to do is put the strings on it that you want. And the first thing you should do, and put it to the proper tension, and try the truss rod first. Then if adjusting the truss rod doesn't work, then you probably have other issues, like the saddle's too high or too low or whatever, or the nut is too high or too low. The only thing that this doesn't work with is a lot of classical guitars don't have truss rods. Some do, but if you have a classical guitar that doesn't have a truss rod, you may find your action varies a bit if you go from hard strings, like high tension strings, to lower tension or medium tension, in which case you may have to put a shim under your saddle or shave your saddle down a bit. So classical guitars without truss rods are different, or any guitar without a truss rod, then you do have to do the adjustments at the bridge and at the nut. But for most guitars, most steel string guitars and electric guitars with truss rods, this should be the first thing you go to when you're adjusting the action, when you're changing the gauge of the strings that you're using. Happy plucking.